everyone, and welcome to the December 14th Oshkosh Common Council member. Please call the roll.
Hanson. Here. Miller.
Here.
Wojciechowski.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Mulgauer.
Here.
Palmieri.
Here.
Present 7.
And Deputy Mayor, would you offer the motion for Councilmember Miller to attend virtually?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I move to suspend the rules to allow a council member to participate virtually this evening.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hanson.
Aye.
Miller.
Miller, say aye.
Aye, sorry.
Wojciechowski.
Aye.
Erickson.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Mulgauer.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
All right, and Councilmember Hanson will read the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
We are mindful of the blessings of liberty that have been in this nation. May our decisions tonight improve the quality of life in our city and for our residents.
City Clerk, if you could join me in the front, I need your assistance. Council members, if you'd like to join us?
Yeah.
Come on down. It's like the price is right.
Absolutely.
Did I win?
Do you have that toothbrush in your purse? Remember they used to ask what kind of things you have in your bag? And Price is Right? We'd all like to share with you a proclamation. Whereas the office of the city clerk is a time-honored and essential part of local government throughout the world, being one of the most revered professions in public service. And whereas the office of the city clerk provides the professional link between the local governing bodies and agencies of government at all levels and its citizens. And whereas Pamela R. Ubrick started her employment with the city of Oshkosh in 1980 as a temporary clerk typist and later became a full-time employee in September 1980. And whereas Pamela R. Ubrick was promoted to deputy city clerk on February 2, 1986, and appointed to city clerk on July 1st, 1998. And whereas being an active member of the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Association, she has maintained a high level of professionalism associated with the office of city clerk. And whereas Pamela R. Ubring has diligently served the city of Oshkosh for over 40 years. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor, common council, and city manager of the city of Oshkosh do hereby commend Pamela R. Ubrig for her dedicated service provided to the city residents, the city council, and all city departments, and recognize the congratulatory occasion of the retirement of city clerk Pamela R. Ubrig, and wish her the best and continued success in her retirement and future endeavors. I'd like to present you with a very rare appearing key to the city.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful for the number of years that I have been able to serve our community. I've enjoyed it. I know I've talked to Mr. Roloff how I've really enjoyed elections, as crazy as they drive me. I enjoyed them. It was like a puzzle. I couldn't have done it without my staff. My ride and die girl here. Fellow department heads, my election workers. I mean, it truly was a team effort, and I've enjoyed it. I really have. Passing it over to Jessie. She's going to do a great job, and if she needs any help, she can always give me a call, but she'll do great. But thank you so much. I've enjoyed everything throughout the many years that I've worked here.
And we will now move to an introduction of new staff. We have Sarah Phillips, our museum director, and Jesse Balcom, city clerk. Welcome, Sarah.
I'll just do a quick introduction for the council and for the public. Sarah's already started. She started on December 2nd. Prior to joining us, Ms. Phillips was with the Idaho State Museum since 2008, most recently as their curator of collections and exhibitions. She'll be providing leadership to our public museum, and even though she's just started just a short week and a half ago, she was in constant contact with Anna, with the museum staff, who serves as our interim director, who I can't thank enough. She did an outstanding job helping us through that transition. And she and Sarah were on the phone regularly. So I think she's hitting the ground running, and we're looking forward to having her stay with us. She has a bachelor's degree in history with emphasis in American history from Boise State University, and also has her master's of applied historical research with an emphasis in museum studies. So she comes by this academically as well as professionally, very honestly. So we're happy to welcome Ms. Phillips to our department head team, and look forward to working with her, and go visit the museum. So with that, I'm going to let Sarah do a commercial message for the museum.
No, well, I will keep it brief because I know there's a pretty extensive agenda. I just am very honored to come on as the new museum director, and I am looking forward to sharing our collection and area history with as many people as possible. So I look forward to serving the city for a long time. So,
Welcome again.
thank you.
My next introduction is for our new city clerk. Well, she'll be new on January 4th because Pam will be working with us through January 3rd. And we're going to be working her through the through the holidays and everything. But our new city clerk is Jesse Balcom. Jesse's been with us for a couple of years already. She's been a management analyst in our Public Works Department. You may have seen her in the background putting together the Public Works budget, primarily utilities, and she's been with the utility division for a couple of years now. Prior to that, she was a village administrator, so you'll have to forgive her. She comes from a crazy lineage of city managers and city administrators, but I have a rare opportunity. I now have 2 former city managers on my staff, which is a luxury that I never would have thought. So having that perspective is going to add depth to our management team. I can tell you that. Early in my career, first city manager I worked for in Long Beach, California, consistently hired former department heads or former city managers, and I never understood it. Now I do. So it took me 40 years to figure that out, though. Prior to Jessie being with the Village of Slinger, she was with the Village of Elm Grove as a zoning administrator there, and she was also the assistant to the village manager. And even prior to that, she was with the city of Janesville. So she's been in communities our size as well. So she has a depth of experience, and happy to have her join our staff as well. She is a bachelor's degree in public administration and policy analysis from UW-Stevens Point, and holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of Kansas. Rock chalk, Jesse. So yes, there's a tiny bit of bias there, as you'll see in my office with my KU stuff tonight. So happy to have Jesse join our staff, and she'll be a great addition, as will Sarah. So thank you.
Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you.
And I get to ask you this for the last time. Do we have citizens registered this evening for citizen statements
I have no one registered for citizen statements.
and public comment on agenda items? Do we have anyone registered?
Yes, I do. I have two individuals for item number 37, Resolution 21617. Our first speaker is Molly Butts, and then our next one is Jason Havlick.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so, good evening. On behalf of the Day by Day Board of Directors and staff, I would like to thank the Plan Commission for their support last week, and thank the council for your consideration in continuing to move this project forward. Our timeline and the shelter's current needs are critical to our organization and the people we serve. To reiterate, the Day by Day Warming Shelter has been serving our community for over 11 years. This project has been stalled numerous times. The shelter is dedicated to serving the most vulnerable population in our community, successfully providing them shelter, basic needs programs, and services with the goal of self-sustainability. We have been a critical provider of services, keeping our homeless off the streets and moving them towards a better life. While we continue to provide programs and services to an increasing homeless population, our current location, including the building that we work out of, no longer is meeting the needs of the increasing services we provide and the needs of our area homeless individuals. In opening a new location, we will be able to provide shelter and services 365 days a year with a minimum 50-bed capacity, turning away fewer people. This new building, as proposed tonight, will also allow day-by-day staff to maintain continuity in our services, helping our guests work towards their goals all year long. This proposed site plan will also be a one-story building and accessible to all people with varying disabilities. It is important to note here that tonight our shelter is serving 3 people with walkers. An operational kitchen will be on site. There will be ample storage space for donations. There will be a private meeting space for staff and guests. There will be areas for community partners to continue our daytime and evening programming. We will add additional showers, changing areas, bathroom facilities, and laundry room. And there will be proper safety and security for our guests, staff, volunteers, and community. I ask for your support to give our homeless community members a place to lay their head at night, warm meals, showers, clothing, and the compassion and support they need, not just at this time of year, but all year long. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Havlick. And while he's walking up, who will be next?
Those are our only two.
The only two?
individuals.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I also would like to thank the Plan Commission, the city, the community, and the council for helping us address a very critical issue of homelessness. I feel very confident with the team that we've established from a programming and architectural perspective that we're able to build a 12,900 square feet facility to be able to provide the necessary needs that our guests will need to be able to take advantage of to become better in our community. There's been a lot of discussion on the location of the shelter being on CP and Broad Street. For 14 months, myself and a team of our facilities team have been working and looking at a variety of different locations, keeping in mind the safety and security, the geographic location, and then being financially responsible. We feel confident that location on CP and Broad will be able to provide those needs to our guests. This site has been vacant for 20 years. In 2017, the site was looked at in the past. Numerous other individuals have looked at this prior to myself being on the board. And again, we feel that this location will meet the best needs of the community and our guests. Timing is critical. Our guests need a place. We're at capacity. So we ask that you guys consider approving this. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to consent agenda. I'll take a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second. Discussion on consent. Councilmember Ford.
Yeah, just a quick question on number 9, the fire department expenditures. I noticed in that memo, it mentioned 3 positions for the fire department that were approved in our operations budget weren't filled, and I'm not sure if that's why the overtime costs went up, and just curious to better understand what's going on there.
Yeah, I was working with the fire chief, and he might be able to expand on that a little bit more, so.
Yeah.
Chief Stanley?
Yes, so for the 2021 budget, council approved the city manager being able to allow us to overhire 3 people after we did the study of would additional FTE reduce our overtime costs. So we took the money internally inside the fire department budget out of overtime and put it into the personnel budget. And, unfortunately, with a lack of qualified candidates, we weren't able to achieve that overhiring. So we need to move that money back from the personnel budget back into the overtime budget.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions regarding consent? Councilmember Ford.
Sorry, I got a couple here. I just want to point out a couple things. On number 10, where we're closing out the fire pension and the fire and police pension fund, I know we looked at that earlier and just want Russ to confirm that that doesn't mean we're actually stealing people's pension money. That's money that's there, that there's no one to give it to, correct?
Correct. Both of the resolutions for the fire pension fund, there are no longer any annuitants or survivors. And they were for pension, employees that were hired before 1973 and any surviving spouses, and there's no employees or surviving spouses in that category. The last one was in 2019. And in the police pension fund, there is one surviving spouse that is still collecting from that, and we're leaving a small amount of money in the police pension fund. We're not taking all the money out.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I do one more, Madam Mayor, or?
If I can ask
Yeah,
about
go ahead.
591, unless you were going to ask about 591.
No.
Okay. Let's see here. I just have a question. It says in the resolution that we have a negative fund balance for the workers' compensation fund for 2020 and 2021. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. At the end of 2020, the workers' compensation fund had a negative fund balance of $465,000. And based on claims occurring in 2021, we are projecting that to end up even further in the hole at $939,000. So claims are exceeding more than the charges that we're allocating back into the fund. So that's why we want to address that situation.
So just to be clear then, the 465,000 in 2020 is the 939 in addition to that? Or is
No, it
that
just grew
465,
to.
it grew to
Grew
that?
to.
Okay, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Ford.
Yeah, last but not least, I want to draw attention to Resolution 21602, which is the increase to the stormwater utility rates. I know that's a source of concern in the community, especially for our businesses, as that has grown substantially over the years. The Ellers printout that takes a look, moving forward, what our rate increases are going to be, do show that there's going to be an additional 6% increase going through 2024, 5% going through 2026, and then it looks like it finally stabilizes after that, 2027, moving forward between 0 and 2.5%. And I know those are the estimates, so I'm assuming they're accurate, and I just want to say that I really hope that we can get to a point where that does remain steady, because I think more than anything, just having some certainty would really reassure our business community.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, the comments I would just add to that, what we tend to do is look at the capital improvement program that the council adopts, and we look at our need for capital investments into our stormwater program. And based on those capital projects, we kind of make sure our rates are sufficient. And we're really trying to look at how much we really need to issue debt and how much we can build up in reserves. So we're just trying to strike that balance.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do as we move forward.
And I would add some historical perspective to that. The date that you pointed out is more than just a coincidence. We started ramping up our program in 2008 after the major storms. So we've gotten ourselves on a pretty regular schedule. After 20 years in 2027, we will have gone through the final year of the first year of borrowing for that. So we're really going to be more in a plateau mode. So I really believe that once we get there, we'll be able to take a breath but we're going to continue to do the projects, but we're going to be paying off as much as we're borrowing. Right now, we're borrowing more than we're paying off because we still have a lot more projects to do. But once we hit that 20-year mark, I think things are going to even out.
Well, thank you for that context, and I do hope that's reassuring to the business community moving forward.
And also with regard to, some of the rationale for this too includes the total suspended solids and the total maximum daily load that have been required by DNR. And I guess I would just ask perhaps Mr. Robbie, are there items or practices, best practices that individual home and business owners can do to minimize the total suspended solids and the TMDLs?
Certainly, any development that takes place is required to install practices to reduce the amount of pollution that runs off from their sites. And through the stormwater utility program, they are eligible for credits if they are exceeding regulatory requirements.
And phosphorus, is that something that's in like fertilizer in our grass? Is that?
Well, phosphorus-containing fertilizer is banned statewide unless for very few exceptions, one of them being establishing a new lawn. But certainly grass clippings if they're blown into the street and run into the storm sewers, leaves if they're allowed to run into the storm sewers. So that's why our leaf collection program, we require the leaves to be placed on the terrace, not in the streets, because we don't want that additional nutrient loading getting into the storm sewer system. And that's also why we do field a lot of complaints from residents, from people that are blowing their grass into the streets.
Very good, thank you. I also will point out that we have a couple open seats on the Stormwater Utility Board. If anyone has an interest, please contact Diane in the City Manager's office if you're interested in serving on that board. Any other items on consent? Please call the roll.
Hanson.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Wojciechowski.
Aye.
Erickson. Aye. Ford.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
We have one new ordinance this evening. There will be no action taken. This is ordinance 21-608, amend portions of Chapter 14, Stormwater Management, Chapter 24, Wastewater Systems, Chapter 25, Streets and Sidewalk, and Chapter 28, Water pertaining to public construction and services and methods of payment, and to create Chapter 21 of the Oshkosh Municipal Code pertaining to public construction and services, methods of payment, special charges, special assessments. Again, there's no action on this item tonight. That will come back to council at the next meeting in January. We have several pending new ordinances this evening. 21-609, adopt parking lot maps and associated regulations in recently reconstructed 8th, 9th, and 10th Avenue parking lots. We have a motion and a second on 21-609.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Please call the roll.
Hanson.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Wojciechowski.
Aye.
Erickson. Aye. Ford.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Item number 30, ordinance 21-610, approve zone change from institutional district and single-family residential 5 district to institutional district with a planned development overlay for property located at 805 Witzel Avenue. Plan Commission recommends approval.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion on 21610. And this would be for the new Parks building. All right, please call the roll.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Blugrower,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
Ordinance 21-611 approves zone change from institutional district and single-family residential 9 district to institutional district with a planned development overlay for property located at the southeast corner of Jackson Street and West Nevada Avenue. Plan Commission recommends approval.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion on 21611. And this is the zone change for Merrill School, correct? All right. Please call the roll.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Blugrower,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
Next, we have new resolutions. We have several. The first one is 21612, approve 2022 fees and charges. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the fees. I just have one that I'd like to bring out, and that is the increase on one of the alcohol licensing, where it looks like it's a pretty significant increase, but it's actually because we had lowered it for last year. City Manager or Mr. Van Gompel, would you
I think,
elaborate?
I think let's let the city clerk
Oh, there you
comment on
go,
this
Pam.
one. Yeah, she got to earn her pay
I'd
for
be
one
happy
last
to.
meeting.
Those fees are regulated by the state statutes, and because last year with COVID, you lowered it, and now we're just putting it back to what we originally had it at.
Okay, all right. There are a couple of other smaller increases throughout. They're highlighted in the document for those who would like to read the fees and charges that have been changed. Would please take the roll on 21612.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Miller?
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Hanson, I'm sorry, Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Blugrower,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
All right, our next item is 21-613, approve funding for Lakeshore Park Four Seasons building.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on funding for the Lakeshore Park Four Seasons building. Councilmember Erickson.
Thank you. So one question that has come up about, proposing reducing some of the funding for the Menominee Park Road reconstruction by $300,000. Just wondering, is there a way that we can kind of fill that back in, either using ARPA, other funds, so that we can do both the Four Seasons building and the Menominee Park Road?
Yeah, I think any project on this list is ripe for finding an alternate funding source, be it ARPA or something else. I can tell you in the case of Pratt Trail, staff is looking at some other alternatives that we'd like to come back to you on. We're probably going to wait until the parks building itself gets open, because we're preparing for as much as $1 million more on that one. So we've got to be ready for all those. But in the case of Pratt Trail, staff is looking at something that might be a unique funding source, non-ARPA, that we'd like to pursue. But if you just give us a little time, we'll stay tuned and we'll get you more details.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ford.
One quick follow-up. Can you clarify that Pratt Trail refers to the road going through the southern part of the park and not the pedestrian path?
That is correct. Pratt Trail is that road that goes right by the shelters. Right now, it's a Celebration of Lights route, the first part of the route. So, yeah, it will be, it's just that. there was some question about the Seaward Trail,
Yeah.
not Seaward Trail, the road. It's Seaward, there's a trail that Public Works and Parks have been working on to find an alternative because it's been getting washed out and it's not, it's pretty messy over there. And that's, Ray and his staff are working on that with Public Works. And they're actively working on that. That's going to still get done.
Awesome, thank you.
Anyone else on the Four Seasons building? All right, please call the roll.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mugrower,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
Next, we have the 21-615, approved general development plan and specific implementation.
614, sorry.
I'm sorry.
You gotta do 614, yeah. We moved the funding, now we gotta approve the
I
award.
am, yes. Okay, we did the funding. 21-614, award bid to Cardinal Construction Company, Inc. for Lakeshore Park Four Seasons building. This is for the construction, $4,464,887.41.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Deputy Mayor.
I'll have a long dramatic pause while Parks Director Mauer walks up. I just have a very simple question for you. Shovel in the ground and completion date for those who would like to enjoy this part of the trail and enjoy the new facility we're going to install over there.
Sure. Initial conversation with Cardinal Construction, they would like to begin work possibly mid-March, weather dependent, and they're planning for about a 32-week construction period, so most likely end of fall.
Sounds like a great time to have a fall run on our trail over there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions regarding the funding for the construction? Please call the roll.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mugrower,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
Now we're at 21-615, approved general development plan and specific implementation plan for a new Parks Department facility at 805 Witzel Avenue. Plan Commission recommends approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. I see Mr. Lyons is lined up here, so perhaps you'd like to give a little summary on this.
Excuse me, yes. So this is the plan development approval for the new Parks building. We did have to go the plan development on this just because of the unique layout of the lot. We needed a couple of base standard modifications to make the site work for the Parks Department. Plan Commission did recommend approval of the project.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I'm going to ask a question that normally my colleague, Mr. Ford, would usually ask. City project, we're not immune to going through our own process. So we've gone through the general, we've gone through the specific, we've got base standard modifications. So we've got rules and regulations in place, and even internally, when we want to do some construction, we've got to ask for the okay to deviate sometimes. So just if you want to clarify those things, or maybe talk about some of just the small base standard modifications. But this is a lot of our business community, when they come to us for things, they don't necessarily know that we've also got to go through the same process they do, so.
Correct. We require city projects go through the exact same approval process as we do any private developer when it comes to meeting all base code requirements or seeking a plan development for any modifications necessary. Above and beyond that, as a public building, we also make them go through a special design review through Plan Commission to make sure we're holding our own buildings to the same high standards we hold everyone else in the community. So in this instance, it actually goes through one additional process compared to what a typical project would.
Appreciate that, thank you.
I've got a question if everybody's done asking.
Yes, Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Is that aerial, Mark, is that aerial accurate? I thought we purchased a house and knocked it down to kind of square that off a little bit. So was that aerial, our most recent aerial?
Yes, if we can put the aerial back up on the screen. What you're seeing there is actually just the fact that we already had owned a parcel farther to the south than the house that we purchased. So we didn't need to rezone all of it.
Oh, okay, all right, but that with the house is gone in this photo, is that?
Correct. I think we did the acquisition for that maybe, we'll call it 3-ish months ago.
Okay, all
But
right.
to be sure, we'll double check the legal description, make sure it all matches up for you.
I'm not worried about that. It just looked like I thought we owned a little bit
Yeah, we
further.
do. You are
to this-
100% correct. We do own that house. That is pictured there.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you.
And I believe that house is already down, isn't it?
Yes.
So would that change what we're looking at, and as Councilmember Miller referenced, square that off rather than
Yeah.
that kind of dogleg there?
I think the photo we have up here is actually inaccurate. I'm going to double check the legal description, make sure. I believe it probably does include that, and actually includes the sliver we own to the south as well. If you look at the documents in the packet, you can see the full scope of what was rezoned. I think this map is incorrect.
Okay, thank you.
I think if you take a look at page 340 of your agenda packet, that's the site plan, and that's really what you're approving tonight. The zoning's already been done, you just did that a few moments ago. That gives you an idea of what it looks like, and it's that home that's already been torn down, that's reflected in this, the layout that you see here.
So just one follow-up question, and that is kind of going back to the discussion previously, that we're anticipating, even though this references the anticipated $6 million, we're actually anticipating that's coming in higher.
Yes, your role tonight is the regulatory side of approving the site plan. When you put your fiscal hat on, it'll probably be around February.
Okay.
And that's where we're, just because of what we know from the Four Seasons building, plus what we're hearing from every other contractor in town, we're preparing more for, we're bracing for a sizable increase based on bid costs that we're seeing.
Anyone else? All right, please call the roll.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mugrower,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
Resolution 21-616, approve general development plan and specific implementation plan for a new middle school development located at the southeast corner of Jackson Street and West Nevada Avenue. Plan Commission recommends approval.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Mr. Lyons, would you also address this project, please?
Yeah, so this is the plan development approval process for the replacement of Merrill Middle School. Similar to the last project, due to the unique character of the building, size of the structure, and development of this nature, we did feel it was appropriate to use a plan development overlay in this project. Plan Commission did workshop this as well as have a hearing on it. There have been a number of public input sessions that were done, and Plan Commission did recommend unanimous approval, subject to the base standard modifications that are included in your packet.
So what is it about this site that, I know we are using plan development in many of our rezonings. What is it about this project that requires that additional flexibility?
Yep, in this case, there's a number of elements. Obviously, the single parcel that's cut out from it did create some unique characteristics of the site that we needed to address during the development. And just a development of this size with a school is not something typical in our zoning ordinance. So we do use the plan development to help massage the site. We do use that basically zoning negotiation through the plan development to make sure we get the appropriate project to fit on the site. Gives us the flexibility to allow more landscaping where it's needed and trade off for maybe some reductions in setback and that type of thing.
And if
Also,
you,
being a triple frontage lot does create some hardships when you have the 3 front yards all the way around instead of your typical side yards.
and if you would indulge us, just for the publics who may or may not have had an opportunity to understand, is it your understanding that the main new building is going to be constructed on the northwest area, and the remaining buildings would be taken down in the southeast?
So at this time, I don't know if the school district has a plan for the remaining building, whether it will be coming down or staying. They'll be doing that separately. In this image here, we just tried to show you everything that is currently kind of the school district area, so you kind of knew the entire picture for the area. But yes, the new structure will be constructed at kind of the northwest side of what you see in this image here, or that southeast corner of Nevada and Jackson.
Do we have anyone here from the school district? Just for other council members, if you want to ask other questions, that's all the questions I have. No? All right. Thank you. All right, please call the roll on 21616.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mugrower,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
21617 approves specific implementation plan for an indoor institutional use at the northwest corner of CB Avenue and Broad Street for the day-by-day warming shelter. Plan Commission recommends approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Councilmember Ford,
Yeah, you anticipated that, huh?
I saw you peeking around.
Yeah, so slowly making my way towards the button here. Yeah, I just want to point out a couple of things very, very quickly here. First, I know that this has gotten confused a little bit in the public, but we have yet to commit any ARPA funds or anything to this project. When it comes time to evaluate community requests, we'll evaluate this one against all the other requests that came in from the community. And I bring that up right now because what's before us today is very much an independent nonprofit going through the same process any other organization would on a development. So if there was anybody that had an alternative proposal and it was in front of us, we'd consider it the same way as we did any other proposal, but we don't have one. I know there's some disagreement in the community still about the location, and my sincere hope is that we don't take this fundamentally good thing, a homeless shelter for our community, and turn it into a source of division. So really, my plea is just that all the private organizations out there for and against this project, they keep talking to each other and make sure that we land on a positive outcome. So I'm happy to be supporting this tonight.
And I'm very pleased to support it as well, and I want to thank all of those people who contacted us also in support, the Yes in My Backyard group. I really appreciate everyone who's had the support for this over the last several years, and I will also be voting for this. If there's no further discussion, please call the roll.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mugrower,
Present.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 6, 1 present.
And Resolution 21618, amend board and commission rules to set forth rules pertaining to the placement of matters on board and commission agendas.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilmember Erickson?
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't ask this question ahead of time, but are there plans to, or what's the process look like to update those who are on boards and commissions on kind of the changes or
You go ahead and,
how that process should look like?
Sure. If the changes pass tonight, we plan to do training from our office for the staff liaison people in January. And then at that time, if any of them, they will take the changes back to their boards and commissions. If they would like someone from our office to appear and do training for their boards and commissions, we, will arrange that as well, so.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I just had a follow-up question. I expect too that I'll also be at the January 13th meeting with the board and commission chairs or vice chairs who attend that, also to have that on the agenda as well. But I did have a follow-up question that just occurred to me. In those individual training sessions, will there be discussion about topical references? Because sometimes in what we've seen here in recent years, right, where an item will kind of go through multiple boards and commissions, and where it gets started may come from citizens or other inquiries. Is there going to be some discussion about that flow, I guess, and as to which content or topic specific item goes to which board or commission.
Yeah, and if you look at the changes that are proposed, one of the things that we did is we provided a kind of short synopsis for each board and commission saying, this is kind of your general area, here's where your ordinance is, so you can look at it. So that they have that to easily reference, and that is also going to be something that we point out in the training. It's going to go into, if you've been on the different boards where we have the manuals, those updated pages will go into those manuals.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
That was a lot of work. It's really thick. All right, please call the roll on 21618.
Hanson,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mugrower,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
And we are at council discussion and direction to city manager, future agenda items. Do we have any future agenda items that folks would like to bring up right now? And future meetings, city manager, do we have any?
Not at this time. We're not having our meeting in 2 weeks, so no, our next meeting will actually be January 11th.
January 11th. I guess I do have a question on future meetings. So do we have a tentative date that we'll be polling for the strategic planning update?
We will be polling, but we are still interviewing folks to replace Mr. Jankowski. So we've been doing that over the past couple weeks. So once we have somebody lined up, then we'll be coming back to council. I don't think it'll be as early as we had hoped, and I hope a pandemic doesn't stop us from doing that, because the council's wisdom of doing it early paid off. I'm hoping that won't be the case, hoping a little delay might actually be better. But we are going to be a little more delayed, because 2 years ago, we were already sitting down with Walter and planning for it, and we're not at that point yet.
Okay. And then we do have a future workshop on the Clearwell project update, January 11th. In the meeting workshop, can you talk a little bit about what that is and what's expected?
Well, I would hope that I'd get a little feedback, because I did have some conversations with some council members about, we'd like to get a little update on where we are. We had that meeting at the Waters and gave a tour, and then we did some Q&A that we sent out to folks from that meeting. I think it's appropriate that council has an opportunity to kind of review that information and have some Q&A of their own. I think there's a lot of information that we need to get out. And so with that said, I would be looking forward to getting feedback. I thought that doing a 5 o'clock workshop, it may take longer, and I didn't want to time constrain council, so I felt having an in-meeting workshop was just appropriate. Typically, it's not an action item, so that would assure people this isn't for council to vote on anything. It's really more for you to gather more information, and then eventually prepare for a public, discussion of this. But I think we have more work to do on that, and so any feedback you can give me on what you would like to see at this this presentation workshop, I would be more than happy to entertain any suggestions.
Deputy Mayor and then Councilmember Ford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I think, given how important this project is to the community and some of the things we've been hearing, just, council members directly have been receiving, as well as just in the print media and social media worlds, it's entirely appropriate for us to hear from public works staff in regards to the project, and we can ask, the questions that we need answered, and then have them, have the time to correspond with us, or, converse with us, and just in terms of any of the questions we have. So as city manager alluded, I think it'd be a good idea for us to get city manager and public works our questions in advance, so they have ample opportunity to really answer them well for us.
And do you expect that we'll be considering at this meeting some of the options?
I think what you'll be discussing some of those. Typically, workshops are not for you to give specific direction, it's really more to
Right.
absorb, then I think we would put that back. But I think what we're going to do is evaluate the costs and pros and cons of each of the different options that have been bantied around. And we're going to try to get them into some general categories so that we don't have a zillion ideas, but we have multiple different approaches that we can take.
And do you anticipate council giving specifics into those options ahead of time?
I think if you want to provide input in advance or at the meeting, it's really for you to gain as much information as possible, because I know you're getting peppered with questions, and I think it would be appropriate for you to have more information. And we'll make sure that in advance we give you the most up-to-date Q&A, because as we get questions, we just add it to the list.
And just so I'm clear, why would we not have the workshop before a meeting? Why would we have it in the meeting again?
I'm concerned that having a 5 o'clock workshop, that puts you on a time clock that you got to be done at 5:45. I don't want to constrain council to, if you want to ask Q&A for an hour and a half, I'm not recommending that, but if that's your desire, I want you to be able to do that. And I know sometimes some of the workshops are a little difficult for people to make, but I think this one will take more than 45 minutes, to be honest with you.
Certainly.
Councilmember Ford still.
Yes. Sorry.
Hey, no, that's okay.
I left you off the screen and I forgot about you.
Did you forget about me? Come on. 6'3". Sorry. No, so my hope for this is that we can use this as an opportunity to get some, really show some good faith to the community. I know that there is concern out there that despite our promises that this will go to Plan Commission, this will come to council, I think there's still skepticism that that's going to happen. I think it's important that we have a discussion of the timeline, so whether we have specific options on the table then or not, just that we can lay out when exactly those things are coming. And I know that the city manager and I talked a little bit about a citizen idea for a landscape architect. It'd be interesting to hear what that would cost and what that would mean.
Eventually, we're going to need some landscape work done, so it's not that we can't do it, it's just a matter of when we do it. If we do it a little earlier, it's probably not the end of the world.
Sounds good.
And if I could just follow up with another question too. Given that this is at the lake shore, I seem to recall there's a name of an organization for communities around the lake. And it was one of the questions that I got that inquired as to whether or not, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank what the name of the organization is. Winnebago Lakes, is it council maybe? I may have this incorrect. Whether or not they are participating or we are consulting with them. And I just passed that on inarticulately, I apologize.
Well, I'm drawing a blank too, but I know what you're referring to, so.
Okay.
We'll take a look at it.
All right, council member liaison reports for boards and commissions. Do we have any reports? All right, city manager, it's all yours.
I have a lot of memos in the packet for you tonight. Because of we had a 3-week delay, plus end of year, we're getting ready for 2022. So there's a variety of projects that we're working on, getting ready for CIP and whatnot, and that's what you see with most of these. There are a few in there about Riverwalk signage and whatnot, but most of them are construction related to our capital improvement program. We have a variety of engineering firms that we use for specific items, and they're listed on that as well. So unless there's any questions, I'll just go to outstanding issues. Outstanding issues, there's not a ton of updates. I did give, the council a little bit of update on some of my goals for the year, and we're going to be talking about that in my review later anyway. But there are some things that are getting carried over. For example, we're actively working with R.A. Smith to present next steps. That's February 1st date. Facility study we just did tonight, so we're looking probably around, late January, February to have that discussion as well. Happy to answer any questions regarding that. Otherwise, I'll get into COVID-19 update.
I do have a question
oh,
on one of the outstanding issues there, and
Sure.
I'm going to keep following up on this until we get there. And I know we're not there yet, but the Lifeline rate discussion with staff and the PSC, do we have anything, anything at this point after a year and a half that we can review or know in advance of this for the Lifeline rates and the PSC review?
Sure, Mayor, if I may, for the city manager, I know this has been on the agenda and an outstanding issue, and it's really kind of a chicken and egg type of situation. It really involves the Public Service Commission and the timing of when we present the possibility to the Public Service Commission. And it kind of relates back to the Clearwell project discussion that you just talked about. And, part of the process, in order for us to submit a rate application to the Public Service Commission, we have to have either a yes or a no on the construction authorization on the Clearwell project. To just go ahead with the rates without the Clearwell project is not really an efficient use of making that application process, doing the resources, and actually submitting that application, because it is time consuming, and we actually draw in additional outside resources to do that. So we were trying to time that up with the submittal, with looking at that Clearwell project as part of that process. So it's kind of been on hold pending the timing, and to include the Clearwell project as part of the rate side, we have to get the authorization from the construction side before we can do the rate side. And that's why we've been kind of in this holding pattern. I know it's a high priority for you, but until we can get that in there, in that mode, I think it'd be not a wise investment of outside resources just to study the rate structure for Lifeline without looking at the rate structures needed to recover any investment for the Clearwell project.
So maybe I've misunderstood in the past. Submittal of that rate was, I think, expected after we might look at what they might be. So what you're saying is, if I understand correctly, until we have a yes or no on the construction of the Clearwell, we can't even look at numbers to even think about it. Is that right?
We can, but it's like the timing of going back. If we did it now, we'd probably have to go back to the Public Service Commission after the Clearwell project gets decided, if it gets decided. So that would be like a second step. And I think that would be kind of, I was trying to do it in one step versus two steps. And just to try to save resources and time and energy. And that was just my recommendation and looking at what's best for the city. So that's.
But that could be like another year, right?
Unfortunately, yeah, we're kind of in that holding pattern for that.
And this has to do with the rate application. So this is still part of the rate application. The Lifeline rate would be a relatively small part of their review. For them to go to the resources, I don't think if they knew that we would be on the heels of a rate application with another rate application, they wouldn't necessarily look upon that favorably. We don't need to go there from a financial standpoint at this time, and typically you go to them asking for a rate increase because you just increased stormwater rates tonight. You're not regulated by the Public Service Commission, so you can do that. With the water rates, they are regulated completely by the PSC. So when we go to them, we do a lot of work. We have to demonstrate a lot of things. The Lifeline would be a portion of that, and that council would have to give us direction for that. This has been there, but the council hasn't given us specific direction to apply for a rate increase and incorporate Lifeline rates into that rate increase. That's still a decision for council to make, and I think Mr. Van Gompel is just saying, I think it'd be more prudent to wait until the Clearwell project is there so we can package that, because that's going to have a significant impact on our rate review. Anything else, Russ?
You're exactly right. Right now, as we look at it, we're meeting our rate of return that's authorized. So for us to go back and ask for a review on our rates, even to establish the lifeline rates, they're not going to look at our rate of return on a rate charge basis because we are making our rate of return that's authorized. So, there's a couple of factors.
Mayor, if I could chime in.
Yes, Councilmember Miller.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. I share your views. The lifeline rate is important, but I want to remind my fellow council members too of a discussion that we had. I agree with putting it all into one rate case. These rate cases are complicated. They're time consuming. I've got a little bit of knowledge with the Public Service Commission, and I do agree with staff that if we incorporate all of this into one rate case, I think it'll be simpler for everybody. And I think the commission will look favorably on that rate case based on the fact that we do want to put a lifeline component out there. So I do agree with staff rolling it all into one rate case is the best way to do it.
And I hear what you're saying. I guess my follow-up question would be then, given that it has been a significant amount of time, and it may yet be a significant amount of time before we're at that discussion point, do we have the option of going back and looking at a lifeline provisional credit to water users out of our ARPA because it's direct assistance to households?
I can't speak for the commission. Usually, the commission's guiding principle is going to be on whether or not the utility is making its authorized rate of return. And in looking at the financial position so far to date, they're doing that. So I'm a little reluctant that they're going to allow us to do that. We are in the process of going to the commission to get authorization on the construction of the Clearwell project, depending on what council decides. And I think there are certain design standards that have to be done in order to do that submittal. And our Public Works Director has worked on that component of it. So we are making progress towards it.
And I guess maybe my question isn't completely clear, but it was brought to my attention that we did reduce this fee, a $500 fee for alcohol service in the city, while others were challenged with not being able to pay their water bills. And so maybe if I can re-clarify my question, is it permissible for us to consider and not impact our rate case presentation a credit to folks on their water bill out of ARPA dollars?
That's a detailed question that we're not prepared to answer.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and I'm not the right person to answer that either. So.
All right. Thank you. COVID update?
COVID update. The data that we've been receiving from the health department puts us into now the critically high category, not the very high. Literally 2 months ago, we were having discussions about sneaking down into the high from the very high. And I'm looking at comparative data from a year ago. In October of 2020, we hit our peak for the month, of any month that we've had, 3,895 cases of cases confirmed. And the following month was 3,000, then 1,700, and 1,000 the next month. And then the vaccine started to kick in, and we were down to only 429 in February. Very good trend. August, we went from 967 to 2,000 cases in September, 1,600 cases in October, over 2,500 cases in November, which is comparable to September of last year. We've completely gone the other way. We're already at 1,279, so we're halfway to hitting another mark of 2,500. My guess is the official count will be down because Some of the testing sites are going to be closed for the holidays, so we probably won't officially hit that higher mark. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're, knocking on 2,000. So the cases are as high as they were last year. So with that, I have no choice but to follow the numbers and follow CDC guidelines. We're going to be masked up again, and I'm doing it now because we aren't having a meeting in a couple weeks. So I'm going to extend it through the month of January. All I can do is encourage people, get your vaccines, get your boosters. Unfortunately, the walk-in Wednesdays will not be available on the 22nd or 29th because they are giving these poor National Guard folks a well-deserved time off. I think the hope is that they'll be back in January. I don't know if it's official yet, but they're hoping to get them back in January. And I'm going to defer to Councilmember Erickson if she has any insight. I don't know if it's official that they're coming back.
No, not yet.
So we're crossing our fingers, but tomorrow is going to be the last walk-in Wednesday of the year, and I hope it's not the last walk-in Wednesday period, but we won't know.
And that's for vaccination, not testing.
That's for vaccinations, yeah, and they're they still have testing available, but it's going to be limited, and as the mayor and I were just talking the other day, even the private places are going to be shutting down for the holidays, and there are a couple places that have said we're out of tests.
Yep.
So it's rather limited, especially around the holidays.
Yeah, I think it took me 3 days to get an appointment for a rapid, and that was out of town, so, yeah.
So that's where we're at. So the numbers, the rate is still very high. I believe it's over 1,000, and that gets us in the critically 1,000 per 100,000. That's our rate, and that's as high as it was this time last year. So there's a grim look on my face if my mask was off. So just encourage people to do everything that we were doing a year ago and get your vaccinations. That's the only way we're going to get out of this thing. I wish I could end the open session on a cheerier note, but we put this at the end of the agenda, so that's all I have. But thank you for all your support this year. Thank Ms. Ugrig for her service once again. We have an in-person staff meeting tomorrow, so that's why I'm holding back. She'll get her due tomorrow.
No, Madam Mayor, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Before we adjourn for the year, just happy holidays to city staff and to the citizens out there. It's been a good, interesting 2021, and hopefully a safe and healthy 2022 is on the way. So just saying to my fellow council members, happy holidays.
You as well.
And Deputy Mayor has a motion for a closed session.
Thank you. I move that following the adjournment of this meeting, the council may convene into closed session for discussions pursuant to section 19.85, parent 1, parent C of the Wisconsin State Statutes, to discuss the performance evaluation and compensation regarding the city manager, an employee over which the common council has jurisdiction and exercises responsibility.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And please call the roll.
Hanson? Aye. Miller?
Aye.
Wojciechowski?
Aye.
Erickson?
Aye.
Ford?
Aye.
Mugrower?
Aye.
Palmieri?
Aye.
Carried 7, and that's my last call.
Nope.
We have one more motion.
You got one more yet.
Have a motion to suspend the rules?
I'll move to suspend the rules to allow Councilmember Miller to participate in closed session virtually.
Good call.
Second.
And please call the roll.
Hanson? Aye. Miller?
Aye.
Wojciechowski?
Aye.
Erickson?
Aye.
Ford?
Aye.
Mugrower?
Aye.
Palmieri?
Aye.
Carried 7. That one's my last one.
And a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who seconded?
Who seconded?
Hey, Pam, just so you know, I'm very happy I got to be your
I'll
last
second it now.
motion.
Retrospectively.
Sorry, Councilmember Miller, didn't catch that.
I feel very honored to be Pam's last motion in her 30-plus year career.